On this week's episode, I'm joined by Kiko Martins. Kiko is an author, an owner of multiple restaurants, a popular TV and radio personality, and one of Portugal's most well-known chefs. We discuss, amongst other things, what makes him proud of Portugal, beating Gordon Ramsay in a cooking competition, and how Portugal inspires him to create delicious food. Welcome back, or welcome to another episode of Portugal, The Simple Life, and I'm really honored to be joined here by Kiko Martins. Kiko, hi, welcome, and thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you for inviting me. It's a great pleasure to be here and to speak about something that I love, that is my country. And we are a very small rectangular in the world with a few inhabitants, but like 500 years ago, the whole world was divided between Portugal and Spain. So we played a very important role in the world history. And even nowadays, I think we are super small, but we keep on playing a very important role. In my area specifically, in terms of gastronomy, we have a small country, but a big patrimony of recipes and knowledge and culture. So it's a unique place to visit, but for many, many reasons, but gastronomy is definitely one of them.
Awesome. Well, we're going to get into all of that stuff. And obviously the podcast, we love speaking about Portugal, and we love speaking about why Portugal is better than Spain as well, you know, so it's good. It's all good, Kiko. It's all good. But for our Portuguese listeners, you don't need any introduction. I had some colleagues from work that were really excited that you were going to be on the podcast. But maybe for people that don't know who you are, give us a little bit of an introduction. Tell us a little bit about you, Kiko.
Okay, I was born in Brazil, but mainly because of political reasons. We had a revolution in '74 in Portugal, and my dad was belonging that time to a party that has to go to Brazil in this revolution. And I was born in '75 in Rio de Janeiro. I used to say that I was born in one of the most beautiful cities around the world, that is Rio de Janeiro. But now I live in the best country in the world, that is Portugal. So I have been living in this Portuguese country for 32 years old. Right now I'm 42. So it has been already 32 years living in Portugal. I came when I was 10. I grew up in Lisbon. My life was normal between living with 7 brothers. That is something that nowadays is not very normal. Wow. And I'm the youngest of 7. My mother, she played a very important role in my decision to be a cook, to be a chef, because she has to cook for her whole life for these 7 kids, with me 8. So I always consider my mother a great chef and someone that inspired me a lot. With a little pasta, with a little tomatoes, or with a little cod, or with a little potatoes, she could do like a crazy meal. That was always something that I get crazy with, the creativity and the knowledge and the capacity of working of my mother. So I grew up in Lisbon, and when I was 18, I think I was a little bit lost in life. Normally, when we never know what to do in life when we are in that years of life. But I was working with homeless people in that time. I was delivering food at night as a voluntary. And in that time, I was in the university studying business. And I don't know what happened in a moment at night that I realized the key importance of food. Food is not something that we only eat because we need. Of course, we need food. If we don't eat, we die. But I understood that the importance of food to get to people and to use the food of something to connect us to everybody. And in that moment at night, I thought for the first time that maybe I could be a chef. Maybe I could quit business, and maybe I could dedicate my life to start working with fruits and vegetables and meat, and to transform that. I keep on thinking about that. At the time I was studying. So it was a little bit strange for my dad to hear that I want to be a chef. So I decided not to tell anybody, but I decided to keep on buying books and to spend more and more time at the kitchen. In the third year of my graduation, I said to my mother that I really want to be a chef and I want to quit my studies. And she said that I should quit. I should finish at least what I was studying, because I needed only one more year. So I finished the graduation. And then when I finished that, we were in 2002, I went to Paris. I spent 1 year in Paris studying in Cordon Bleu. And then I spent more 6 months in Paris doing a couple of stages. I did one very good stage in a restaurant called I Am Le Bistrot in Paris. There were only 4 guys in the kitchen, only Japanese. They couldn't speak French, and then it was crazy because it was very important for me to get into a kitchen with guys that didn't speak French, and they were like so rational as like the Japanese are, and so methodic, and so it was a very, very key moment in my life. After this stage, I went to Le Doyen in Paris, 3 Michelin star restaurant, and worked with Michel Esquer, that right now he's in Georges V, also a 3 Michelin star, and I spent there 4 months. After that, I came to Portugal, and then my first place where I work in Lisbon was 11, Restaurant 11, where I worked with Joaquim Corper, still a very good friend of mine. And then in that time, Chef Cyril was there, that he is now in Cascais. It was a fantastic moment. We just received 1 Michelin star. We were in 2005. 2005, Lisbon was very different than nowadays. We are speaking about more or less 15 years of difference, but there was a big difference in this last 15 years in Portugal. I spent there a couple of good months in 11, and after that, I decided to open my first restaurant. My first restaurant was called Mastige. Mastige is a marketing concept that means to give prestige to brands or whatever. So the idea was, this was like 17 years ago, was to make something that was special, but with very raw and simple ingredients. Like, I was not going to do a lasagna bolognese. I was going to do a lasagna with shrimps and broccolis. I was not going to serve carne de porco alentejana. I was going to serve lombinho de porcos with barbecue sauce, or the potato stuff with berbigão. So there was a little bit touch, like a marketing touch with everything. The restaurant worked very, very well. But fortunately, after 2 years of the restaurants, I met the woman of my life, Maria. She used to go to the restaurant because she worked next door. And then I met her, and then we decided to get married. As I was mentioning before, one of my great passions in life is the social work and the missionary work. So we decided in our first year of marriage, we would spend this first year working as missionaries in Africa. So we went to Mozambique, and we worked during 1 year with an institution called Leigos para o Desenvolvimento, one Portuguese organization. And we worked there as missionaries during 1 year. After this 1 year, instead of returning to Portugal, we decided to travel around the world. So we traveled during 14 months around 26 different countries. We wrote a book called Comer o Mundo, that mainly it means eat the world. And then the idea was to go to local families around the world, go to Japan, go to Nicaragua, go to Malaysia, go to Canada, go to the States, whatever, 26 different countries around the world, and to be with the family at least for 15 days. So I will go to Syria, I will go to Nepal, I will go to India, I will find a city to be, and I'll find a family to receive me, and I will stay with them. So after this trip, we arrive in Portugal. So as you can imagine, my personal GPS was full of recipes. And then the only thing that I want to do is, like, I want to really open a restaurant and put like people like tasting different things that I find around the world. Wow. We were in 2005 or 2005. So it was difficult to find a restaurant in that time. We were just after the crisis in Portugal. All my friends, they were like, go away. I was speaking like with Henrique Sapsoa, with Vilés, and then, man, Portugal right now is not a nice place to be. You have to go to Brazil, Angola, Australia, whatever, but don't stay here in Portugal. Portugal, it's we are passing a big crisis. But as you can imagine, the more you travel, the more you will understand that Portugal is a fantastic place. And that will happen with me. So I decided, no, guys, you are totally wrong. I'm going to open a restaurant. Maybe I'm not going to open something like super gastronomic. So I decided to do something different. I decided to maybe to do a 2.0 version of a butcher shop. So my first restaurant after this trip was called Utalho. That means the butcher shop. So the idea was you get inside by a butcher shop and then you have the restaurant. The restaurant could only be like a steak and fries, but the idea was to do like a proper gastronomic work and study about meat. So my idea was to visit like all the suppliers of meat in Portugal and try to work with them and try to develop different products. So Utalho has been already rolling for, I don't know, maybe around 9 years, almost 10 years. Utalho has. So Utalho was my first restaurant, and it's always been a very special place for me because it was the restaurant that I did even the to put the floor, to prepare the things in the kitchen, every single detail in Utalho passed by me in that time. So it was like a super special place. Mm-hmm. After Utalho, after 2 years, I developed a new concept in Príncipe Real, a very special area in Lisbon called a cevicheria. A cevicheria was a big success. Even nowadays, we keep on serving more than 200 meals a day with only 24 seats. So it rotates 10 times a day. It's something like very unique. I think that even in the more optimistic projection of a business plan, I will never put cevicheria serving 200 covers a day. But even nowadays, it keep on working like that. Cevicheria has almost 8 years. After cevicheria, I keep on opening new restaurants and new concepts. So my first idea in every single restaurant that I open is that it should have ADN Kiko. You can understand that the way that people work, the way that things are organized, the way that menus are thought, but every single restaurant has its own personality. Mm-hmm. So one is dedicated to pokés, one is dedicated to ceviches, one is dedicated to meat, the other is dedicated to Brazil. So every single one has a different menu. It's more complicated for me because I have to study more, I have to read more, I have to develop more and more recipes, but it's something that I have really, really, really a lot of fun. Wow. During all these years, I have been also doing a lot of television in Portugal. I think I have already worked for all the brands or the channels in Portugal. I did a couple of MasterChef, Chef's Academy, all these different programs that pass on TV. And I can consider myself a very lucky guy. I have 4 kids and I have a great wife. And I love what I do. That is cooking and thinking recipes and thinking about the future of people. It's very... it's something that I really have a lot of fun when I see someone arriving to a kitchen. He doesn't even know how to chop an onion. And after 3 or 4 years, he can be a chef of a restaurant. So this is super fun to see the development of people and what we have been achieving all these years.
Amazing. Okay. There's so much, Kiko, that I need to unpack here. Okay. Let's take a couple of steps back. Coming back to Portugal as a young boy, did your parents come back as well at that time?
Yeah. We came back all together. We were in. I was 10 years old. And
with all of your brothers as well?
Yeah, all of my brothers. A couple of them stayed in Brazil because they were older, and the others were also studying abroad. But the whole family came to Portugal. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And what do you remember about that? What do you remember about coming back? Was it a shock for you? Was it strange? Or was it sort of like coming home?
It was terrible. Like leaving Brazil with 10 years old and hot weather, beautiful girls and sun, and then arriving to Portugal and then it's freezing, It's a country in Europe, it's much more organized than Brazil. And it was chaotic for me at the beginning, believe me. I hated Portugal. I hated the way that people speak, because in Brazil we sing more the language. In Portugal, it looks like we are speaking Russian. It's like very tough.
So when did it turn? When did it turn for you, and why and how did it turn?
It started turning when I was like 13, 14. I started like hanging around with a couple of nice people, and I started enjoying my life here. And then And of course, when I arrived to Portugal, it was the winter. I arrived in October or something like that. So it was like super strange for me, the freezing of Portugal. And as everybody knows, that Portugal is maybe one of the hottest countries in Europe. But for me, as a kid coming from Brazil, it was like super strange.
Yeah, it's hilarious. I mean, even now you'll see the Portuguese are walking around. It's November. Portuguese walking around with scarves and gloves and gorros and the beanies, and the foreigners are walking around with shorts and sandals. You know, This is not cold. This is not a cold place. But Kiko, I mean, where? So you're based in Lisbon. That's the place that you choose to base yourself. Would you consider that your hometown?
Yeah, for sure. Lisbon is my hometown. It's a city that I love, definitely.
What do you love about Lisbon?
Oh, it's difficult to say in one point. Nowadays, I love the melting pot of nations living in Lisbon. Like a lot of Brazilians, a lot of French, a lot of people from North Europe. I love all the immigrants from Bangladesh, from Nepal. I love like walking in the old parts of Lisbon. I like running a lot. It's something that I do with my time. So I like running in Lisbon, I like running in the valleys. I like the proximity with the ocean. I live like 1 mile from the ocean. So it's something that I've been doing surf for a couple of years in my life. So the ocean plays a very important role. I love the idea of like being in 2 hours in Paris and being in 1 hour in Barcelona and being like everything. Look like we are in the center. In 6 hours, I'm in New York City. So I love this small country. I love the language. I love the culture. I love the recipes. I think they are so simple but so tasty and so good. So I don't think that I will ever be able to live in another country than Portugal. Maybe I will live one day in Porto. I can live in Algarve maybe one day, but not in another country. It will be too tough for me.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things have come up in your story, and you see it a lot in your career and the things that you've done. And you've spoken about it now with Lisbon being a melting pot of people. You traveled the world with your wife when you first got married. How important, and you also spoke about the history of Portugal. And Portugal's got this history of people coming in and out from all over the world, and this influence of flavors and cultures and languages. And it's something truly unique about our little country. I mean, with all of your traveling, with everything that you've done, what were those things that you really appreciate about Portugal and about your home?
I think that I used to, when I was traveling around the world, I had the opportunity of being with Faith and Aloysio, a couple that they already travel around the world many times. They are a couple of photographers and they do many books. They did a great book called Hungry Planet that was like pictures of the families around the world with what they eat. So we had a family of Somalia and what they eat, a family in New York with what they eat. So I think there was an email passing with every single boxes of email like 20 years ago. So these guys, they live in Napa Valley, and and when I met them, there was a beautiful sentence right in their houses that was more or less something like this: that nothing is more important than food for you to live. If you don't eat, you die. But nothing is more important than family and community to pass the traditions and customs and knowledge and education. So what I really like about Portugal is the importance that food plays in our community. I never say when it's something important, we go and have lunch. When it's something important to celebrate, we have dinner. When it's a big meeting, after the big meeting, we had a meal. So food has been playing a role in our community for a long time. And I love this. I love to spend the time at the table with no phones, with less watches, with not seeing the time. And this is the thing that I like more. I could say many things, but this is probably for me one of the best things in this country. Of course, it's more or less like Italy or more or less like Greece and more or less like a couple of countries from Bacia do Mediterrâneo, from this area of the world. But as I was traveling around the world, like I didn't saw that in India, I didn't saw that in China, I didn't saw that in Japan, I didn't saw that in many, many countries. And I feel that in Portugal. I think the food plays a very, very important role in our daily life. So that is something for me that is amazing.
Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more. I thought I liked food when I first moved to Portugal 12 years ago. I thought then that I liked food. I like food much, much more now. I appreciate the taste. I appreciate ingredients. My wife is Portuguese, so a lot of that is because of her. And when you were talking about your mom getting everything out of the ingredients, it reminds me of my wife, because she will take, a tomato and we'll use that tomato 3 or 4 times for different things. But let's talk about this food thing, because it is something so deeply ingrained in our culture. There's 2 sides to it. There's one is just the sheer pleasure, and like you mentioned, it's events. Events are around food, and connections with people. It's around food, and it's a necessity in Portugal. It's not even a luxury. I think it's a luxury in how good it tastes, and it's a luxury in how much we enjoy it. But it's a necessity. It's deeply, deeply ingrained in our culture, and I think I agree with you more than any other culture that I've come across.
Yeah, for me, it's you are totally true. It's like even in Brazil, I remember, of course, the churrasco, the barbecue.
Yeah,
it plays a very important role in the. But there are the barbecues and the feijoada, but the complexity and the variety of recipes. Like if I open a cooking book, like I have, or I don't know, I'm looking here. This is the book that we wrote, the Comer o Mundo, and I keep on looking, and I see, of course, like China. China it's a globetrotter of food. It's like an amazing country. I'm deeply in love with Chinese food, and like Vietnam. Maybe I would say that maybe the country that I find around the world that I saw people enjoying more food was probably Vietnam. It might sound a little bit strange, but the people love food in Vietnam. They love to eat. They love the it's amazing. So I compare a little bit Portugal like Vietnam. So the variety, the complexity, the what we have, it's like Vietnam.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, let's talk about the ingredients here, because this is something that's come up, and we've had a Michelin star chef on the podcast, Hans Neuner. We've had Chef Chakal as well, and one of the things that kept coming up in those interviews was the quality of our ingredients here in Portugal. What do you want to say about that? Is it a pleasure to cook here because of the produce as well?
I think it's a good chef has to be able to cook with anything, of course. But of course, it's easier to make a gazpacho if the tomato, it's good. I cannot do a gazpacho if the tomato doesn't taste anything, What I can do is that I can put more onions, more garlic, more coriander, more whatever that will transform the taste. I can make a different taste. But if I'm speaking about just the product, that is one type of cooking, like I can say that there are many ways of cooking, but in a way that you only respect the product and you just want to take out the best flavor of the product. Portugal it's deeply a fantastic country, mainly by fish. I think we have one of the best fishes around the world because we have deep waters and cold waters. And then we have a big coast. So we have fishes from the north, the south. It's incredible. But as I was saying before, I don't think that the cooking is about only to respect the ingredient. I think this is too much like, okay, so I'm just going to eat the oyster raw or with anything. So if I can open an oyster and if I can put many other things inside the oyster, and I can change the flavor of an oyster, of course, it's a different type of oyster, but it's very good. We are speaking about like Portuguese recipes like amejo abelhão pato. Amejo abelhão pato goes with white wine, garlic, coriander. So why is this respect the product? I can put like soy sauce, ginger, and meeting. I'm disrespecting the product? No, I'm not disrespecting the product. So I think that cooking is all about the pleasure that you take out of it. So I take a lot of pleasure when I eat like just a fish covered with salt in the oven, and I take it out the salt and the fish is fabulous. But of course I love like a fish with coconut, with ginger, with spices. It's the best thing about cooking is this, that you can change every day. You don't need to eat the same thing every day. So this is the probably the best thing about being able to cook. But I don't consider myself if I was like I lived in Mozambique for 1 year, and then I had a lot of fun cooking in Mozambique, a lot of fun. Of course, the fish, hot water, maybe it was more difficult to do a fish with salt just in the oven. So I have to be smart, and I have to do a tempura. Maybe I have to put more spices in the flour to give taste to this tempura. Maybe I didn't have like many ingredients like I have here, but I have mandioca, I had yuca, I had a lot of things. So I have young coconut, I have peanuts, I had different things. So we have to be creative. So I think when you have passions about cooking and you have fun cooking, I think you have fun cooking foie gras or simple garlic, You just have to be smart and take out the things from it, like for me, I don't need to be only cooking with foie gras or lobster or very good fishes to have fun. I have a lot of fun cooking even today, in half an hour, I have to go to the kitchen to make dinner because my wife, she invited a couple of friends to come here, and she's how can I say this in English? She's ovo-lacto vegetarian. She doesn't eat like anything that comes from animals. So I'm super enthusiastic to go to the kitchen right now because I will have to create something with no butter, no eggs, so it will be fun. So, and I'm not going to make like hummus or these kind of things, like there are very tradition escapes to what people do for vegetarians. So I have to create something unique for her. So everything that is a challenge for me, I have fun. If we say that, let's open a second butcher shop, let's open a second cevicheria. No, this is only for, just only for business. No, life has to be more than this, So cooking for me, it's something that always challenges me, So it's always something that I had a lot of fun.
Did you get that from your mom? You mentioned how, you watching your mom cook, you learned all these things. I mean, what were some of the things that you learned from your mom watching her cook for you and your 7 brothers that you still apply today in your kitchens and in your restaurants?
Probably the most important thing was the wastes, like no waste, yes. No waste. It's something that, what really bothers me in life is the waste of food, like it's something that I have a small, in a national radio in RFM. I go every Friday to RFM to try to teach people not to waste food, and to be a little more smart when they are cooking and to be able to freeze and to be able to do this. If the avocado is black, what can I do? If a carrot, it's like not crunchy, what can I do? So, and these kind of things really bothers me because whenever I see my mother at home, we have a little bit of rice, no garbage, keep the rice. We had a little bit of vegetables, keep the vegetables. We have something, let's keep everything together. So in the end of the week, let's create something, Sometimes you just need some phyllo pastry, like some butter or some olive oil, put everything inside, make a beautiful roll, some sesame seeds, and then you can serve this as your, Wellington from the whole week, and you put everything inside there. I'm joking, but I'm also speaking truly because like we live in the world that we have more or less like 7 million people in the world, and we will be 9 in a couple of more years. So we have to be more smart because we are not going to produce more and more and more. We have to be more smart. The waste we have, almost 1/3 of what we produce and what we buy, we send to the garbage. And then we try to complain that this is a supermarket's fault, but it's not the supermarket's fault. It's our fault. We are the responsible for more than 60% of things that are in the garbage are the families, not the big industries. The big industries, they are more developing in that point than us. But when you buy some coriander and we just use a couple of leaves, we leave the rest of the coriander in the fridge, and after 7 days, we garbage. Why? Why can't we blend it with a little bit of peanuts and olive oil, and then we keep it for like 3 months? So this is the only really thing that really like pisses me off in the kitchen.
Yeah, amazing. We have to talk about the day that you beat Gordon Ramsay in a cooking competition. I mean, we have to talk about it. It was right here. We're not far. I mean, where I'm recording now, we're very close to Nazaré. You're on the lighthouse, and you did it for Portugal. You beat Gordon Ramsay in a cooking competition. Tell us what happened.
It was fun. I think the when you work side by side with someone that is huge as Gordon is, and you understand that you don't need to be arrogant. You don't need to be so many things. Like Gordon is a super nice guy, super relaxed, super cool. He has this reputation of being like super tough. It's not true. It's just a TV image in a couple of programs that he has been doing, he has done many years ago. I think nowadays you can see many TV shows with Gordon, and he's super cool, and he's super professional, and the way he likes to educate people. And then even if you follow his Instagram, you see the couple of recipes that he does it very fast, very simple, but he always uses the right technique. So this is something that I really admire. He has the knowledge of cooking. He's just not only a good communicator. Of course, he communicates like anybody else in the world, but he is amazing in the way that he also cooks. That is something that I really admire, and I had a lot of fun. It was 2 special days shooting and working with him. It was fun to be in Nazaré, and hopefully I will see him again in one of his restaurants. Let's see.
He loved the black pork. He really loved the black pork.
Yeah. But the black pork, it's like the Wagyu of pork. It's like the it's so good. It's like it's amazing. I work with that. It's amazing. The way you have to cook it slowly, because if you cook it too hard, what will happen is not all the fat, but a couple of more fat will take out of the meat. So if you cook it very slowly, you keep everything inside it, like vacuum slowly cooking until it gets like 52, 53 degrees in the interior.
So on a barbecue, what's the best way to do black pork? Is it to cook it on a lower heat and for slower?
No. In the barbecue is the only way is to like power,
Okay.
The barbecue is nice because you feel the barbecue smell and all the barbecue tastes, but you lose a little bit of fat. So it's not easy to have the best parts of the 2 worlds in life.
It's tough.
So maybe what you can do, what I do in my restaurant, I slowly cook in vacuum and then I grill it. So in the last moment. So I have a little bit of the barbecue, but I slowly cook it first. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. You mentioned your restaurants, Utalio, with the butcher concept, and then Cerveceria. What are some of the other places that you've got, and what can people expect to find in you talk about the Kiko DNA.
The last one was Boteco.
Okay.
It's like an homage to Brazil, my home, the place where I was born. And in Boteco, you can expect like Brazilian food with my touch. You will find how can I say this? You're not going to find a simple bobó de camarão. You'll find the bobó de camarão, but you'll find a little piece of cod like slowly cooked. You'll find picanha served in a different way. You always find the traditional ones, but with little touches. That is my expertise, my knowledge. What is my DNA? I think I like to be original. It's something that I always try to look for original ideas. I try to be consistent. I don't like to do something that it's only workable if I'm there or if somebody's there. So I have to think that a restaurant is open 7 days a week. and it has to work with different types of people working in different shifts. So everything has to be very, very organized. So this is one of my important things. Everything has to be in the right places. Like I pay very attention to the not only in the kitchen but also in the living room. The knife, the fork, the glasses, the lights. Lights plays a very important role. I dedicate a lot of time to thinking about and testing the right temperature of the lights in the restaurant. Everything is thought. It can be wrongly thought. I can make some mistakes, but at least I try to think about everything. So I think when you go to Talho or you go to Cevicheria or you go to Boteco or you go to Poke or you understand that the company or the guy behind is the same one. I think you get that.
Yeah. Okay. Kiko, how does Portugal today inspire you to keep creating and to keep innovating?
That's the good thing, that Portugal today inspires me a lot. First reason, it's very pragmatic, because Portuguese nowadays has a community to visit the restaurant and people to pay for good food. This didn't happen like 20 years ago. So the only reason why we have more and more restaurants, more and more fun in Lisbon, is because we have the public for that. So this is good. And we have public with knowledge, not only like Portuguese people, but like French people with a lot of knowledge. They know what they want in a restaurant. They know. So this inspires me a lot, because you are not only cooking for Portuguese people, you are cooking for everybody. So this is really fun for me. I always try to do restaurants that I think about the Portuguese people. If you go to my restaurants, if you go to Talho, you will see like 85% of Portuguese people. If you go to Boteco, you'll see 85% of Portuguese people, even though it's in one of the main streets of Portugal. But the idea is always to bring the world to Portugal, because to do Portuguese cuisine, you have many other good chefs in Portugal that does that. My DNA is not like Portuguese cooking. My DNA is work with Portuguese ingredients, but let's travel around the world with them. Let's do ceviches. Let's do things that are different. Let's put soy sauce. Let's put ginger. Let's put galanga. So this is what I have fun. Don't try to be restrict to olive oil, garlic, and onions. So my idea is to travel a little bit more.
Amazing. Speaking about Portugal and the world, and bringing the world into Portugal and vice versa, what about your country makes you proud? What makes you proud of Portugal?
I think there are many things that makes me proud of Portugal. Of course, there are many other things that makes me sad, but I think our history it's something that makes me proud. The football players we have outside Portugal is something that makes me proud. I could speak about like natural things, like the beauty of Sintra, or the landscape of Alentejo, the food in Alentejo, or the food in Trás-os-Montes, the wines that we have in Portugal. It's something that makes me very proud. Our history in terms of wine, our Porto wine history. I think I can speak about all these kind of things, but there are something that makes me a lot of proud. That is the Portuguese people. Honestly, I love them. It's something that we always think about politicians and then we don't like them and blah blah blah. But I love Portuguese people. It's something that makes me proud to be Portuguese.
Well, you make people proud of Portugal as well. We're happy that you're one of us. And so, yeah, that's amazing. Kiko, one thing that you want people to remember from our conversation, just one thing.
If I had to do just one thing, I would say probably the waste, like the let's waste less food. Let's be more smart. If I'm cooking a bolognese, I can cook meat for like 4 meals. I can only spend like 1 hour cooking, and then I cook meat for 4 meals. I use 1/4 for this bolognese, and then I had 3/4 more that I can froze in separate bags, and I can use one to do an empadão. I can use the other to stuff some cannelloni, and I can do the others for a lasagna in 1 month. I don't need to every time to cook only one meal, and I don't need to throw away food. The internet is full of good recipes, but we need to change this in ourselves. We need to change this idea of like rest of a rice, garbage, rest of meat, garbage, rest of vessel, garbage.
Yeah, spot on. Okay, how can people find you online, follow you, and keep up to date with the things that you're doing?
It's very easy. There are all these websites in the restaurants. There are my website also, and then you can also find me in Instagram, Chef Kiko Martins. I will always putting every news in the Instagram and every piece of communication.
Cool. We'll put links in the show notes that people can follow you online. I don't want to keep you too much longer because you're going to be cooking for your wife and some friends. You never keep Portuguese people away from the table. It's dangerous. It's dangerous. So last question, Kiko, and a question that we ask all of our guests. Portugal, the simple life. Why?
Because I think the big knowledge in life is always to understand that the more simple things are the better things. I can buy some shrimp. I can make a very complex dish, but sometimes the better thing is just the grilled one. Just like the simple shrimp grill with some beer and. I think when you understand that the highest degree of development is the simplicity.
Cool. I like it. I'm glad we had this conversation after lunch. Otherwise, I'd be super hungry. It would have been dangerous. But thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure, really. I love the Galas Barcelos, the sardine, and then the azulejos behind you.
Cool. Thank you.
Very Portuguese.
Kiko, I'm going to let you call it.
That's a wrap. Thank you.
So thank you once again to Kiko, and thank you to all of you for listening. Please subscribe, share with your friends, give us a thumbs up, and please leave a comment or a review. We'd love to hear from you. And we'll be back next week with a brand new episode. And as we say in Portugal, bom proveito. Welcome to the simple life.